Welcome to The Explainer. So today we're breaking down a massive topic that is, quite frankly, completely reshaping how we build software. We're talking about Kubernetes. But, here's the thing right out of the gate. Kubernetes isn't just some fancy magic box where you drop your containers in and then go grab a coffee. No way. It's an entirely different operating environment. It fundamentally changes the way your software starts, stops, scales, and ultimately survives failure.
Okay, let's dive into this because we first have to confront a really dangerous classic developer myth. You've probably heard someone say it. That's DevOps, that's infrastructure, that is not my job, right? I mean, a lot of developers hear the word Kubernetes and they just immediately check out, assuming the platform engineers are just going to handle the whole shebang. But actually, here's the harsh reality. If your application runs on Kubernetes, it is your job. The stakes here are incredibly high. A perfectly configured Kubernetes cluster is absolutely not going to save an application that's poorly designed for it. Seriously. If your app handles shutdowns badly, if it drops user requests, or if it just eats up way too much memory, Kubernetes won't magically fix it. You literally have to design for the environment.
So to get us there, we're going to break down the anatomy of a cloud-native app. Our roadmap today covers 5 key areas. First, the mindset shift. Second, deploying and routing apps. Third, configuration, secrets, and state. Fourth, health, survival, and scaling. And finally, number 5, the Kubernetes-ready application. Let's jump right in.
Section 1. The mindset shift. Moving from fixed infrastructure to a dynamic ecosystem.
So at a high level, Kubernetes works by maintaining what we call a desired state. To really wrap your head around this, just look at the stark contrast between the two approaches. In a traditional deployment, the old mindset, your servers were basically like pets. They were lovingly hand-fed, given fixed IPs, a permanent home, and nursed back to health when they got sick. But the Kubernetes mindset? Your pods are cattle. They're ephemeral, totally temporary units existing in dynamic networking. You literally cannot assume anything is permanent. Your code has to thrive in a totally unpredictable reality.
Okay, moving to Section 2, deploying and routing apps. We're looking at pods, services, and ingress.
Everything starts with the pod. A pod is the smallest deployable unit in Kubernetes. Think of it as your foundational compute unit, usually containing just one single instance of your application container. But here's the wild part, and honestly, this is a critical warning. Pods are completely disposable. They crash, they scale up, they vanish. And when they come back, boom, brand new IP address. So as a developer, you can never rely on a specific pod IP, because, well, it's going to disappear.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how services magically solve that exact problem. Because if pods are always vanishing, how does anything actually connect, right? Well, a service provides stable networking and a constant address to reach that constantly shifting dynamic group of pods. So instead of trying to track down the changing IP addresses of, say, 3 different backend pods, your front end just calls a stable service name, like Uplatz API, and the service seamlessly routes the traffic to the healthy, available pods working behind the scenes.
But how does the outside world actually get in? That's where ingress comes into play. An external URL like api.uplatz.com hits a specific routing rule, which bridges the gap to your internal service. And why must developers care about this? Well, because this ingress layer directly impacts your app. It dictates your request timeouts, the maximum payload sizes for file uploads, forwarded headers, all of it. If you don't design your app with ingress in mind, simple things like a large file upload are suddenly going to fail in production.
Section 3. Configuration, secrets, and state. Why we need to externalize everything.
Think about it. If pods are constantly dying and being reborn, how does an app remember its settings? How does it survive without relying on a fragile host? Well, you have to externalize it. And Kubernetes gives you 2 distinct tools for this. First, config maps. These are for your non-sensitive data, things like feature flags, service URLs, or log levels. Then you have Kubernetes secrets. These are for the highly sensitive stuff, your database passwords, API keys, JWT signing keys. The big takeaway here? Stop hard-coding environments into your code. You want to use the exact same container image in staging and in production, just fed with different config maps and secrets externally.
So the crucial point is this. Pods are compute units. They are not permanent homes for business data. You absolutely must store state externally. If your application saves user uploads or local session files straight to the pod's disk, the moment that pod restarts, poof, all that data vanishes into thin air. You've got to store that state externally in managed databases, distributed caches, or object storage.
Let's look at Section 4, health, survival, and scaling.
building in those crucial survival skills.
So your application essentially needs to talk to Kubernetes to survive, and it does this through probes. First step, the liveness probe. Kubernetes basically taps your app on the shoulder and asks, are you alive? If your app is frozen and fails this probe, Kubernetes ruthlessly kills and restarts the pod. Second is the readiness probe. Kubernetes asks, can you actually take traffic? If your app is still warming up its cache or connecting to a database, it should fail this probe. Kubernetes won't kill it, but it will stop sending user traffic until the app is truly ready. If you mess these up, your app either gets assassinated unnecessarily or completely crushed by traffic while it's still trying to wake up.
And just as important as waking up is shutting down. When Kubernetes updates a deployment, it basically sends an eviction notice. Your app needs a graceful shutdown routine which goes exactly like this. 1. Stop accepting new requests. 2. Finish your current requests. 3. Close those database connections. And 4. Exit cleanly. If you ignore this urgency and just crash out, the consequences are massive. You'll drop active user requests and corrupt half-processed background jobs right in the middle of a routine deployment.
And this brilliantly illustrates another survival skill, managing your appetite. You really have to understand the difference between requests and limits. A request is what your container expects to need to run, say 512 megabytes of memory. A limit, though, is the absolute maximum boundary. If your application has a memory leak or tries to load some massive data set into memory and crosses that upper limit, the cluster will instantly terminate it. That's an event known as being OM killed, or out of memory killed. Your app absolutely has to operate predictably within these boundaries.
Now here is where all this hard work pays off. If your app stays healthy and operates within its limits, it can scale. Horizontal Pod Autoscaling, or HPA, automatically adjusts your pod count based on metrics like CPU usage, memory usage, request rate, or even queue depth. But remember, in Kubernetes, scaling horizontally means adding more pods, not creating bigger pods. This strictly requires that stateless application design we talked about a minute ago. If your app hoards local memory sessions, users are going to hit pod A, then get routed to pod B, and suddenly find themselves completely logged out. No good.
Section 5. The Kubernetes-ready application. Let's put it all together.
To survive in a Kubernetes cluster, you've got to avoid the developer hall of shame. Here's a rapid-fire list of the cardinal sins that cause applications to fail. Having no readiness probe, so traffic just hits a cold app, writing a bad liveness probe that triggers endless restarts, implementing zero graceful shutdown, which causes dropped requests, using local pod storage so user data just vanishes, storing sessions in local memory, which totally breaks your horizontal scaling, and finally setting unrealistic resource limits leading to constant OM kills. Honestly, avoid these at all costs.
Which leads us to what is really the core secret of this whole ecosystem. Kubernetes is an amazing orchestrator, yes, but the application must cooperate. You can have the most beautifully designed, highly available cluster infrastructure in the whole world, but if your application code fights the dynamic nature of that cluster, it will fail. Cloud-native software succeeds only when infrastructure and application design work hand in hand. So, as you look at your own code base today, I really want to leave you with this question. Is your application a static relic, or is it genuinely ready to survive and thrive in the dynamic Kubernetes ecosystem? It's a super exciting challenge, and getting it right changes absolutely everything about how you deploy software. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Next time, we're going to push the boundaries even further as we explore serverless application development. See you then.